Okay, so when we started this morning I was mentioning preliminary practices, and that basically everything, or not even basically, actually everything that we practice, whether it's sutra or non-tantric practices or tantric practices dealing with mantras and deities and visualizations and whatnot, they are all, and of course study of the theory and view, it's all preliminaries. Monica, can you switch on that light corner? So often in open heart retreats and events we do both. From the point of view of Ati Yoga, which refers to the natural state, we practice both approaches, sutric and tantric. So now we did hour and a half of tantric practices, compassion practice through Avalokiteshvara and Mani Mantra, and then Guru Yoga briefly with Guru Rinpoche. So let's now switch to sutra practice. And maybe I'll say something first about, so already in the tantric session and during the lunch discussion we had, I was mentioning, talking about the sameness of the basic knowing and something that you're doing with your concentration or attention. Sameness of those. And in this next session I will point out, try to help you understand it, what I'm talking about, even though if you don't understand it, at some point later on you automatically will understand what I was meaning. So we will do the following of the breath meditation, which I'm sure most of you, all of you have done before, in the following way. So we sit in a good posture, as we always do. If you need to change, adjust your posture, you can do that at any time. And then about the movement of the breath in the body. So the body breathes. It's not only the lungs that move, the whole body subtly moves. So, and having said that, the starting point, if you start looking for the starting point where the breath moves first and last, it's here in the lower belly. I will point this out in the practice also. So the main area of physical movement of breathing is in the lower belly and belly. But having said that, the whole body subtly pulsates with the breath. So you can focus your attention in the belly, or you can consider the whole body, or you can do some scanning within that breath sensation, wherever in the body. So all these options are available to you. The point is that you don't squeeze into one location. Whether it's if you're feeling the movement of the breath in the head, for example, you're not tightening it, putting it too narrowly, not too focused. The same thing if you're following the breath in the belly, you're not closing yourself like this. It's more of like the movement. Like this. So let's get it started, and I will then give more pointers. So you can have eyes open or closed, however you prefer. whether your eyelids are open or closed, have your eyes, your gaze, going slightly downwards. Not a steep cut with your gaze, not too close the body, but just kind of slightly downwards. First few moments, you can relax the body, like let waves of relaxation sweep through the body a few times. And then start feeling the movement of the breath. And be engaged with it. Your attention, your mind is together with the movement of the breath. So what I mean with being engaged with the breath is that if we are not engaged with the breath, not joining attention and the movement of the breath just moves on its own, not being aware of it. But when we join this knowing with the movement of the breath, you can say that you're engaged with the breath. You can also be engaged with a mantra, for example. First get a feel how the breath moves in the belly. Just staying with it. If and when you get distracted, distraction means that your mind involuntarily, that's important, involuntarily engages with some other thing that is coming up, appearing in the mind, such as a thought or a memory or a plan, some idea. You get distracted of this following of the breath because you start following, the mind starts following, attention starts following. So when that happens, just return your attention engage with the breath. I like the expression that attention latches to the breath. Because it's kind of relaxed way of being with the breath. But having said that, it can also be done that if you get distracted all the time, you can put some more pressure into that engagement. You can have some more attention, more intensity with staying with the breath, adjusting the volume meter of attention, looking more intensely. So now, see if you can, in a bit more sort of like zooming in into the starting point of the movement of the breath in the belly, and also the ending point of exhalation. Starting point of inhalation, ending point of exhalation. See if you can zoom into that first and last physical sensation of the breath, somewhere in the belly. Find that point. Interestingly, what happens when you do this, and we can discuss it after the session whether it happened or not, but I don't want to interfere this guided practice by now starting to discuss about it. But what interestingly happens is that when you find that starting and ending point, you find stillness. Something that doesn't move. So we land on this knowingness, basic knowing, Rigpa Vidya. So it's a good way to, as we were discussing in the previous session, that basic knowing and exercise, any exercise, is ultimately the same. They are not different. Focusing on this starting and ending point is a way to see that. you can come back to the kind of forget or release, focusing on the starting and ending point of the movement, but feel the breath generally in the area of the lower torso. In the belly, in the sides, in the lower back, mid-back, also touching the pelvic floor. As we were discussing earlier today, so the knowing quality of awareness. Awareness has three basic qualities. First is knowingness, cognizance. Second is aliveness, and third one is stability. I would say that the easiest way for anyone to recognize the natural state, awareness, is through that knowingness, the knowing quality underlying which is at the basis of all sensations and perceptions, and that it happens in the eyes, on the level of the eyes, in the area of the head. So now, when we are doing the simple action of being attentive of the movement of the breath in the belly, the lower torso, what happens is that we are turning our attention from the head, from the eyes, down into the body and into the belly. Like I was mentioning the analogy of a beacon, lighthouse earlier. So it's sort of like the light of the lighthouse is the source of light, and that is being aimed or directed to shed light on some whatever things, objects. So here we have turned the light of awareness down to be engaged with the movement of the breath. Is that right? Can you relate to that?
Yes.
So now we have two things going on. One in the head area, where we are aiming the attention down to the belly. So it's not, like I said before, it's not only the belly, it's not only the movement of the belly. There is the basic knowing at the basis. And this is what it means in Dzogchen teachings. You first always go to the knowing. Whether it is concentration exercise like we are doing now, or whether it is sound or music that we are listening through the ears, whether it's something that we are watching with our eyes, or feeling through our skin, or thinking with our minds. in all of these instances there is a basic knowing that is the same, regardless of the channel of the regardless of which sense we are talking about, touching, hearing, seeing, feeling, thinking. This basic knowing is there, and that's why it's called basic knowing, something very basic. So when we do like a basic, really basic meditation exercise like following the breath, according to the Dzogchen principle, in a Dzogchen Hatha Yoga manner, we also recognize this knowingness. That is priority number one. I could go on to discussing selflessness, emptiness of sensation and emptiness of knowing itself, but I will save it for another time. So now simply feel the breath in the belly. So breathing is like a pulsation. You can also follow this pulsation in the area of the whole body, because the whole body breathes. It's the same exercise. It's just that the attention is spread out in a different way, is used in a different way. As I said when we started, you can follow the breath in the whole body or in the belly with the starting and ending points, or you can, if you like, use the breathing in a bit more like body scanning, in a body scanning way, where you focus, you can go through the body with the movement of the breath, go through different cavities of the body, and it's still the same exercise. And if you get distracted, get back. And whether we are following the breath in the gut, in the whole body, or in the hand, for example, or hands, for example, the basic knowing remains. I will just say one more thing, and then I will be quiet for a while. Just like it happened with finding the starting and ending point of the movement of the breath in the belly, can happen that you come to this still point. Even though the breath moves, you come to this stillness. Still point. This can also happen when following the breath in the whole body or parts of the body. This is when the action of attention, being attentive, comes to knowing, dissolves into knowing. The duality of knowingness, being aware, and being attentive disappears. The duality of those two disappear. then you can take a few deep breaths. And you can move your body. God, what's the time now?
13:40.
40.
Yes, 1:40.
Let's take a break of 10 minutes, drinking break, and then continue. Okay.